Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 30-Minute Gospel. My name is Chris, and I'll be your host as we open and study the Bible together. I'll be reading from the King James Version, but you can feel free to read whichever translation that best suits you. I would just recommend that you have a version that does not delete verses from God's holy word. Each video will be a biblical teaching of 30 minutes or less. My material is completely 100% free, so you can share these videos with family members, co-workers, friends, or anyone you know who either needs to hear the Word of God or wants to study it in a casual setting. The gospel is free to all, so I will not accept any donations, gifts, or beg viewers for money. Please give to your local church or a Christian organization of your choosing. You can reach out to me with questions or comments at 30minutegospel@gmail.com, but please keep your message respectful and cordial. Please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy the Christian content on this channel. You can also follow me on Facebook at 30 Minute Gospel with Chris. Well, I thank you all for tuning in this week. We are still on our study about male and female nature, relationships in the Bible. Um, and as I was talking about, as I disclaimer with all these videos, I am not one of those people that is a MGTOW, men going their own way, not getting married, or just being players, or all of that kind of stuff. There is some stuff in what they call the red pill community that is correct and it is biblical. Um, but some of them take it to radical extremes, and I don't agree with those radical extremes at all. So you should be getting married. Don't listen to those people. Don't be players where you're living the single life, but you have a girlfriend and you guys hang out and have a good time, and you just have this girlfriend for 40 years. No, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. Okay, now we already talked about how women want to try to gain control over the relationship. That is talked about in Genesis 3. They do that through emasculation by trying to tear the man down, but they really don't want that position. Um, you they really don't want that position, but they think they want that position. They get confused there. They think they want that position, but then when they get it, they don't want it. They're actually upset. They lose respect for the man. They actually get angry with the man, and then intimacy dries up. And that's what happens. We looked at the example that Ahab was an emasculated male. Okay, and we're going to talk about this in maybe in this video, but definitely in some other videos about how Jezebel just moved on after he died. No, no, it didn't even seem like she mourned at all, because she lost all respect for him. Okay, we talked about how the women think, the nothing box, and all this other stuff. Last time we left off talking about men run on logic, women run on emotion. Okay, we used the example of Rachel and Jacob. She said, "Give me children, or I'll die." That's an emotional response. And then Jacob responded in a logical response. He said, "Am I in the place of God?" You know, that's logic. It's almost like she's blaming him for not having children, but he's saying, am I God? I can't do that. Does that make sense as logic? We looked at Job and his wife. Job said, "Curse God and die," after all the tragedy that happened to them. And Job said, "You speak like a foolish woman. Should we not accept discipline from the Lord, but we accept good, but not also discipline from the Lord?" You know? And so, you could see he's responding with logic. You see, he's responding with logic. And then we looked at Genesis chapter 3. Everything that they say there in Genesis chapter 3, when Eve is looking at it, she said, when she saw that it was pleasing for food and that it could make one wise. And these are all emotions. She did not think logically about what God said to her. I mean, it said to Adam, and then Adam told her. Okay, so she didn't think logically. She was not thinking like, "I'm going to die." That's what God said. She wasn't thinking logically. The serpent got her to respond emotionally. "Oh, this will make you wise. This will be this." So she responded emotionally. That's what females do. Okay. Now, this video is going to be a little bit. If you have children, it might not be one for them to watch if you're watching it. And it's simply because we're going to be talking about sex in this one. Okay. Now, I want, this is one thing that it seems like very few couples have this problem. Okay. We're going to be talking about this is that the this is one of the reasons why, okay, men are put in control of the relationships. God has held men as the head of the household because men, even if they're not Christian, intuitively understand the importance of certain things within the relationship that the female just doesn't understand, doesn't think is important. Okay. Um, and so, because men run on logic, they don't run on emotion. That's what makes them good leaders. As a matter of fact, women want men who run on logic because their emotions can get so out of control, they don't know what direction to go in. You see, they don't know what direction to go in, so they're looking for that male who leads them in the correct direction because that's the way God has designed it. The man leads. What? Let me just give you an example. For example, if a man and a woman are married and the husband says, "Hey, I just got a new job. It's paying me, $50,000 more a year, and it's going to. We live here in Charlotte, but it's going to be in Atlanta. He's moving. The wife is going to move with him. If she is submissive and everything, she will move with him. Okay, that's that leadership that they're looking for. Okay, if he's going, well, I don't know if I should take this. What do you think? Should I take this and stuff like that? The woman is going to naturally get upset because the man isn't leading. He needs to make that decision. Okay. And so God has put man in control of the relationships. That's what he has done, in control of the families. That's why men are bigger, stronger. They're protectors, they're providers. It says to the man, you shall work. It doesn't say anything about the woman working. It says the man shall work. So the man is the provider, the man is the protector, the man is he's supposed to be loving towards his wife. Okay, but there are things, and we're going to talk about love too in this instance as well, about men and women and how they love as well. But he puts the man in charge of the relationship because men intuitively understand the importance of certain things. And what I mean by this is, if you ask a woman, if you ask, and husbands and wives, if you're listening to this, you would know. And husbands, you could try this out on your wife. But if you go to your wife and says, "Hey, honey, I got a question for you. Tell me the top 3 things that you would say are important to a marriage." Okay? Watch what your wife is going to say. Okay? They'll usually say this, something like communication. And communication is very, very important. Um, that they work together as a team. Okay, something like that, maybe something in there, um, and that they spend quality time together or something like that. They'll usually say something like that, like quality time or loyalty or something like that. Okay. All right. And then you ask the man to name your husband, say the wife, you can ask him, what are the 3 most important things for you in a marriage? Every husband's going to say number one. It doesn't matter what husband you have, what man you have, the number one thing they are going to say is sex is the most important, no matter which man it is. Okay? The women won't even mention sex, usually. Sometimes they will. And that's a big difference. So one of the big differences between men and women is this: women view sex as a fun activity. It's something on the level of going to the movies, or you know, whatever fun activity, going kayaking or hiking, or women view sex in that way. It's a fun activity. Men view sex as a vital part of the marriage covenant. Okay. Now, is it a fun activity for men? Yes. But they look at it as an important aspect of the entire marriage. Okay. The most important aspect. All right. And that's a big thing. See, women put it on the basis of something like like I said, like, oh well, we go on a date night once a month, so it's like, oh, we're having fun, so it's like a fun little activity that we do. It's just like it's not that, it's not like a serious thing, like, oh, making sure that I'm provided for and protected, and that the children are provided for and they get a good education and all this other stuff. They don't look at it, whereas men look at it as a vital part. And the Bible makes that very clear that it is a vital part. How do we know this? If you go to Genesis chapter 2. So if you're with me, come to Genesis chapter 2. Okay. All right. And we're in Genesis chapter 2 saying, let me see, or let me see. Can't remember. Okay. And so this is God speaking through Adam, verses 23 and 24. It says, and Adam said, this is now bone, when he first sees Eve, he says, this is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of me. So Adam is naming her. Okay. He says, therefore shall a man leave his father and mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall communicate very well. They shall be financially secure. They shall be loyal and loving towards each other. They shall be good parents. They shall have a fun time together. That's not what it says. None of those is what it says. It says, and they shall be one flesh. What does that mean? How there's only one way that the man and woman can be one flesh, and that's through sex. So God is telling us through Adam, through speaking of this, that the man and woman will come together in sex. It doesn't say anything about communication. It doesn't say anything, any of those things the that a wife would answer. It does not say that. It says the two shall become one flesh. So men intuitively understand how important sex is to a relationship. It's how the man and woman stay connected since the woman was taken out of the man. The man, Adam initially had, Eve in him. Okay, that's what God did. God took the rib out and he created Eve. So man is always missing something. They are not connected, and especially since since the fall, sin has separated man and woman. They were really close in the garden. Man and woman are now separated. Women want to try to gain control of the relationship over a man. Okay, men want to try to gain women want to try to gain the control of the relationship over man. They're constantly battled. There's constant friction. What is the only thing that unites them? Is the one flesh. And that's what happens. That's what the marriage vows, even in the marriage vows, that's what the man is pledging. The man is pledging, I pledge my love and loyalty to you, and that I will, for they say forsaking all others. What does that mean? That means I will not have sex with anybody else but you. And the woman says the same thing. I will have sex with nobody else but you. That's part of the marriage contract. It's expected. Okay? Men understand this. Adam understood it. He said the two shall become one flesh. There's only one way. It doesn't say anything about communication. See, that's what the women think. The women think it's communication. The women think it's loyalty. The women think he's a good provider. The women think they'll name 5 or 6, 7, 8 things before they will name sex. Sex is, they consider that like a fun little activity that we do, like if we played bingo together or whatever. But it's not. It's vitally important. It is vitally important. It's the way you connect spiritually with each other. And men understand this. Men will always list sex. Why? Because Adam lists sex as the most important part of the relationship. Adam did. Okay? And then Paul talks about it too. Does he say the wives should be, you guys should communicate well, you should be secure financially, you should be doing it? No, Paul talks about male and female sexual desire for each other. And he talks about how you shouldn't deprive each other except for a short time, but then you should come back together. Okay? It's vitally important. That's what stays connected. You will almost always see this. Most marriages end because one spouse or the other is withholding from their spouse. More times than not, unfortunately, that's the female withholding from the male, but that is because of their sin and all of this. The female doesn't understand the importance of sex. And I will say this, whether you're male or female, if you are withholding sexual intimacy from your spouse, and this is male or female, males do it, males don't do it on a greater percentage. I think it's probably more along the lines of, they probably did it as maybe 70-30. Most of the time it's a female. Okay. If you are withholding sex from your spouse, you are in violation of your marriage vows. And God is going to hold you responsible for that. Because God clearly says the two shall become one flesh. Now, I'm not talking about if there is now, don't get me wrong, if there's a woman who, or a man who has problems with this. I'm not talking about physical problems, these sorts of things, or maybe even age. But even age shouldn't stop you, because Abraham and Sarah had Isaac. Abraham was 100, Sarah was 90. They were still having sex. Abraham had sex at a very older age with Hagar. So, and I know Sarah and Abraham were trying to have a child. So the age shouldn't stop you. Okay? It's of vital importance, unless you guys agree to that. Maybe there might be a marriage out there where you guys agree to to um to not have sex. Okay, that's fine. But if you're withholding, there, especially females, if you're withholding from your husband, the husband did not sign up for forced celibacy. Okay? And God does not say to force celibacy on your husband. He does not say that. So therefore, you are in violation of your marriage covenant. And you can look at sex as, women, if you want to look at it like this, look at it as this is once, even if it's just once a week. You can look at your husband and say, I'm giving you this as your reward for being a great husband this week, for going to work every day, providing for this family, for being a good father, for being loyal to me, for, making my coffee in the morning time, for just fixing things around the house. I appreciate you so much for what you do for this family. I am going to reward you with sex. It's almost like their paycheck, you know. And withholding is cruel. And I'm not, and there are guys that do it to their wives too. It's cruel, and they didn't sign up for this. And I would just use that as an example too. I heard that example one time with somebody that was talking, especially because a lot more, like I said, it's a lot more of the females are doing it than the males do it. And like I said, it's probably about 70-30 with that. But especially women, or if you want to look at it, men, what if your husband quit doing something as that was a part of his responsibilities? What if he started to do stuff, started withholding doing something, and going, like maybe you guys clean the house once a week, and your husband goes, "No, I'm not going to clean it. You clean it. I'll clean it once a month. You clean it all the other weeks." Or what if he said, "You know what? I'm not providing you money anymore for the next 3 weeks." You'd be furious. And you see, that's another thing too. If you're withholding from your spouse, whether you're male or female, here's another thing. If your male or female spouse goes outside the marriage to have an affair with somebody and have sex, you get hurt and you'd be upset while you've been withholding from them for months or even years. You see, you're in violation. That's what I'm trying to say is men understand it because we're put in the head of the household. Now, you may be, even men who are non-Christian kind of understand it because God instills this in men. God instills this with men so that, when they become Christian, they'll understand this. But sex is the most important part of the relationship. God never says anywhere that you need to have good communication skills. Now, he does mention about being unequally yoked. That's an important thing. You want to marry a Christian, but beyond that, the most important thing about the marriage is not about whether you're financially secure, whether the husband works and the wife doesn't, whether you homeschool the kids or not, whether he doesn't say anything about that. The most important thing is sex. It's the thing that binds you together because wives and husbands are usually not blood related. Okay, like a wife, or a woman, for example, she's blood related to her parents, her brothers and sisters, her aunts and uncles. So that's what unites them. That gives her an identity. Does that make sense? So she'll always, even though she gets married, she's always related to her parents and her family. So there's a bond there. When she meets a man there who's not blood related, it's hard to form a bond. So how do they form that bond? Through sexual intercourse. That's what bonds them. Since blood doesn't, sex does. That's why God says that. Sex binds them together. Okay? It keeps them together. And this is on a spiritual level. All right? Because like I said, sin that not only are they separated, so the two shall become one flesh, but sex is more vitally important in marriages now since sin, because sin separates the women and men even further and also causes conflict, which they didn't have in the garden. So there's a constant conflict there. So men understand the importance. Like I said, most women, now some women will acknowledge that sex is important, but most of them look at it as it's like a fun activity. It's like some fun activity that we do, like when we, like I said, like when we go to the movies or something like that. It is not just a fun, it is a fun activity, but it's very, very serious and very, very important. Because not only does it make children, but it's an activity that keeps you binding. It keeps it as a healthy relationship. If you're having sex on a regular basis, I would say, somebody says, well, how much? Once a week, twice a week, I think is reasonable. Now, if the woman is on her period, of course you can't do that, but there's other intimate activities that you can do together as a couple, that you have the Christian freedom to explore. Okay, but it should be once to twice a week. That's the way you guys. Trust me, the men and women, they will be loyal to you. If whether you're male or female withholding, they will be loyal to you. They feel closer to you. Especially men. Men feel awesome. They feel like I can go conquer the world, and it really is. It's the way, and sex is the way that men express love. You see, that is the way men express love to a female. The female may not look at it like that. The female be like, why doesn't he buy me flowers? I want to do this. No, the men feel love, or the women may feel love through acts of kindness or whatever, but men always feel love through physical touch. That's the way we are. Why? We want that soft touch where our bodies, if you look at men, a lot of men very muscular, our bodies are very hard, very strong, and they're beaten down from the work that we have to do. So sometimes having just a female touch us, give us a massage, things like that, having sex, it relaxes our body, but it draws us closer. That's how we feel loved. And if you will allow it, that you will feel loved as well through that act. But that's the biggest thing. That's why men, like I said, just to recap, men are put in charge of the relationship because they understand the importance of sex. And if you are a spouse, whether you're male or female, withholding from your spouse, you are violating your marriage covenant. That's withholding, especially for long periods of time. If you've withheld, some people have been 5, 10 years. You've been withholding that long. That's almost cheating at that point. You have violated your marriage vows unless there's an agreement. If the husband or wife has come to you and said, "Hey, I want to have sex," you were still refuse, that's a violation. And I think that pastors should look at that as possible adultery, as a form of adultery. You're not living up to your marriage vows. Okay? It's vitally important. Now, women usually will have reasons why they can't, and that's okay. But women do reject their husbands a lot more than men reject their wives. That's statistics. We know that. So if there's any ladies here, you need to be doing that. If you don't, your man is going to get a wandering eye. You don't want him to do that. There's an old adage, and I hate to be crude, but they say this. They say if women, if you want men to be loyal to you, just feed them and have sex. That's all you need to do. You do those two things, the man will remain loyal to you. We're very simple. Men are very, very simple creatures. That's all it takes for our loyalty. And we will never step out of the marriage. We will never do anything like that. Not all of them, but most of the time we won't. So, sex is very, very important. The Bible makes that very clear. So, you need to be having sex as a couple on a pretty regular basis. If you're not, I would encourage you to start right now, because you are violating God's word and your marriage vows. And it's cruel to your spouse who did not sign up for forced celibacy. That's not what was in the contract. Okay? I hope I probably offended some people today, but that's okay. And I just want to say thank you all again for tuning in. Just encourage you to hit that like and subscribe button at the bottom. Okay? I will leave you all with this. Remember, just as Theodore Roosevelt once said, a thorough knowledge of the Bible is worth more than a college education. God bless you all.